Okay, let's talk about picking only one field and sticking with it. What that really means is if when you get into IT, you're going to find that there are so many fields in IT and you're probably confused where you should start or which field that you should pick. And I completely understand because let's say if you're going into a medical field, the medical field itself is so vast. There are surgeons, there are podiatrists, there are pediatricians, there are family doctors. Just like that, every field that you pick has its own subfields. So in IT, whenever you need to decide which field that you have to pick, first you need to understand what are the IT or what are the computer components that you wanted to work with. So I'm going to go quickly over the main three components that you need to understand. Number one component is the hardware. We all know what a hardware is. It's a piece of brick. It's a computer made out of metal, plastic. So when you have that computer, there has to be someone who could fix that. So that's when the technicians, computer technicians come in. That's another type of field in IT where you fix the computer hardware. Then comes the operating system. The operating system is something that runs on top of the hardware. Without that operating system, your hardware is a piece of brick. It's non-functional. Okay, so now operating systems, what are the examples of operating system? Windows, Linux, Solaris, Mac OS, Ubuntu. There's so many of them. Now it's for you to decide which operating system you want to go with and then start looking for that job. Then comes the third category that I wanted to talk about in IT component, and that is applications. That's the main reason people use computers is because of applications. Let's say if I take your phone, because phone is a computer, right? If I take your phone and delete all the applications, all those icons that you have, right? Those apps, let's say if I delete them, is that phone really useful for you now? You cannot even make calls. You cannot get on the text messages, nothing. Those apps are gone. It does have an iOS, which is the operating system if you're using Mac, and it is a hardware, but still there's no application. So just like that, in real world, people run applications on top of the operating system. Examples of applications like ERP application, Microsoft Suite applications, SAP applications, web servers, those are applications. Browsers or Apache servers, those are all examples of application. And there are many more. So remember, these are the three main IT components: hardware, operating system, and application. Now it's for you to decide which one is the field that you want to work with and then stick with it. There are other IT components that I will cover in the next lecture. So stick around. Welcome back. So we already talked about the main three IT components. Number one is hardware, number two is operating system, and number three is the application that runs on top of it. Without these three components of IT, you really cannot have a computer operational. So now let's talk about what are the other fields of IT or what are the other IT components. All right, the very first one that I have in line is the software. So we talked about the application, right? That we run on the operating system. So there are people who actually manages that application. But what about those people who actually develop those applications? And those people are called programmers and developers. So of course, someone has built that application and now someone has to manage it. Just like if you have a car, someone builds a car, now you have to drive it or manage it. You have to change its oil. You have to make sure it gets all the maintenances done on time. So that's why the programmers are the one who actually build the code. And the programming could be C++, Java. There's so many programmings that actually goes behind building an application. The next component is the networking. Okay, so let's say if you have one computer and you are using your applications and you're happy, you don't want it to connect to any other computer or outside. Perfect, beautiful. But now that's not how the world works now. Everybody is connected through computers. So when you need to connect one computer to another, what do you need? You need a cable. When you have to connect more computers, you need a switch. When you have many more, you need a router, so it knows where to route it. Just like you have at your home, you have a modem that gets you outside of your home. So now, question is, who manages that? That's when the opportunity comes in for those people who wants to look into networking field. So if you want to be a network engineer and you are into switches, routers, firewalls, then look into the networking field. Now, the next IT component is the database. What exactly a database is? When you have a lot of data in your computer, you need to retrieve that data every once in a while, or very often, let's say. Sometimes you have to open the application, it takes time to retrieve that data. So now comes in a database. So people have invented this, it's actually an application as well, but now it's named as database. So people actually manages as well. It has schema, it has tables, so you put all the data into the database. And then the database administrators, let's say if you decide to be a database guy, then you will manage their data. You will build them in the right field, you put them in the right field, which data goes to where, and you will do the installation, the configuration of database. What are the examples of database? You have Oracle database, you have IMf&x database, you have SQL database. Those are the databases that actually have dedicated jobs. Okay, what is the next component? Now comes in the security piece. Now you have a network, you have your data, now you need to protect it because you are out there on the network, you have a bunch of computers connected to each other. What if you get it affected by the virus or threat? You have to protect it, right? So then there are many companies who actually have a dedicated team who only deals with security. So there are so many security jobs. I want you to go find them, and there are so many application related security jobs as well. So if you are kind of guy you feel like you could do a very good cop job, that's the best course for you. Sorry, best field for you. Okay, what's the next one? Next one comes in the storage piece. What is the storage now? Storage is, let's say if your computer has 100 gig of memory, 100 gig of disk space, and now you're out of it. What do? You go to, any store, an electronic store, and you buy an external device, an external storage, and then you start storing it. But in the corporate world, they don't use external devices. They actually use a bunch of computers, a large, big shelf computer, which has all these drives in. And the reason they do it because it has redundancy. The most important thing for any company is its data. So protect the data. They have those bigger storage computers that only keeps the data. Now, that storage, that shelf, which that storage runs, there has to be someone to manage it, and there is that opportunity for you. If you're kind of guy, you like to be in storage and you want to do management of the storage, there's so many storage like EMC, Hitachi, NetApp, so like that, there's so many of them. Look into it and see if that is a field that you would like. Then goes, next one is the virtualization. It's another IT component, another field of IT. And virtualization, what that really is, let's say if you have a physical server and it runs only one operating system. But what if you wanted to run 2, 3, or 4 operating systems? Of course, back in the days, you had to buy multiple hardware to run one operating system per server. But now, since we have this virtualization, you could run multiple operating systems on one single hardware. Isn't that cool? Yes, it is. So there are people who manage that, and that's an opportunity for you. So go look for what are the virtualization technology out there. And for me, I think that VMware is one of the #1 virtualization platforms. So look into it. But there are many others too. Of course, I'm not favoring one or the other. All I'm saying, there are these different companies that build virtualization. There's a Red Hat virtualization, Oracle, Citrix virtualization, Microsoft has virtualization. So look into it and see if you like that field, and start investing it. And the last one that I wanted to talk about is cloud, which is very recent. Everybody talks about cloud. So if you wanted to be in cloud, cloud is basically based on virtualization. So it's a bunch of computers connected together somewhere out in some data center, some location, which you could never touch or never you need to manage if you're running your application. But if you want to be the person who wants to manage, design, and build all that, then you need to learn how the cloud administrator or engineer or architects, what are the jobs. There are the cloud examples I could give you, like Azure Cloud, like Amazon Cloud, Google Cloud. You could be the user or you could be the person, the administrator who can manage that. So look for the cloud jobs. So anyway, here are the things that we covered. The developers who actually develop that software. Then coming the networking, then the database, then the security, then the storage, the virtualization, and the cloud. So there might be a few more, but I'm only picking the ones that are really, really in demand, and most of the people actually go into these fields. So please, one thing I would advise you, please do spend 30 minutes on every one of those that I have talked about, all these IT components, and try to understand what these are. There are many online resources you could find. Even you could look it up on YouTube. That's perfectly fine. You could look it up and find out what exactly networking field is, and you'll find it. And the last thing I want you to do, once you decide this is the field I have to pick, then please stick with it. Don't go jump around from one field to another, because at the end you're not going to learn anything and you're going to waste your time. So stick with one field. I'll see you in the next lecture.